Welcome and thank you for joining me on this creative journey. My name is Rihanna Jacobs and I'm from Mossel Bay in South Africa. You can download the PDF line file free on my website if you want to paint along with me. Today we'll be reading Cinderella from All Colour Fairy Tales book, retold by Jane Curith, illustrated by Elizabeth and Gerald Embleton. Cinderella. Once upon a time there lived a beautiful young girl who was greatly loved by her mother and father. Alas, one day her mother became ill, then she died, and the girl and her father were left all alone in their big house. Years passed. The girl's father decided to marry again, and he chose for his new wife a lady who had been married before and who had 2 daughters of her own. Now these 2 girls could have been pretty, but they were so bad-tempered and spiteful, they always looked ugly. The 2 ugly sisters hated their gentle stepsister. "Your place is in the kitchen," they told her. "You are our servant now, and you must do what we tell you." So poor Cinderella, for that is what the ugly sisters called her, spent her days scrubbing and sweeping, so her dresses were soon in rags. As for the ugly sisters, they thought of nothing but going to parties and spend money on clothes and jewels. You can imagine their delight when one day they received an invitation to a grand ball to be given by the prince. The house rang with their loud chatter as they planned what they would wear, and encouraged by their mother, who was just like them, they ordered the most expensive gowns. On the day of the ball, Cinderella was rushed off her feet. First, she had to iron the dresses and smooth out the ribbons. Then she had to help the 2 sisters to do their hair. "I suppose," said Cinderella at last, "that I couldn't come to the prince's ball. I wouldn't mind wearing one of your oldest gowns." When the ugly sisters heard this, they almost choked themselves with laughter. "Who ever heard of a little Cinders going to a ball at the royal palace?" one exclaimed. And the other cried, "You must be out of your mind. Pin that small curl of mine in place and get back to the chimney corner where you belong." At long last the ugly sisters were ready, and without bothering even to thank Cinderella for all the trouble she had taken to make them look pretty, they swept out of the house and climbed into their carriage. Left alone in the kitchen, Cinderella was so lonely and sad she began to cry. She lost all count of time until suddenly the dark kitchen was bathed in a golden light, and there stood the most beautiful lady she had ever seen. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Cinderella gasped, rubbing her eyes. "I am your fairy godmother," the pretty lady replied. "Tell me, child, why do you weep?" I wanted to go to the ball," Cinderella whispered. "I wanted so much to see the prince." "I'm here to grant you that wish," said the fairy. "With the help of my magic wand, I can make all wishes come true. But you must do whatever I tell you." Cinderella sprang to her feet, her eyes shining with excitement. "Oh, I will," she promised. "Only tell me what to do." "First, you must bring me a fat yellow pumpkin from the vegetable garden, her fairy godmother told her. As Cinderella rushed out into the garden, she couldn't help wondering what the fairy would do with the pumpkin. But she was soon to find out. When the fairy touched the pumpkin with her wand, it changed into a glittering golden coach with seats of rich red velvet. Cinderella gazed at the wonderful coach in silent amazement, but the fairy had not yet finished. "Now," said she, "fetch me a mousetrap. You'll find 6 little mice in it who will make excellent horses." The fairy was right, for no sooner had she tapped each little mouse on the head than it changed into a fine prancing horse with flowing mane and tail. "Well, we have the coach and the horses to pull it," declared the fairy. "Now we must find a coachman." "Shall I take a look at the rat trap?" Cinderella asked timidly. "Wouldn't a rat make a good coachman for our coach?" The fairy nodded, and Cinderella showed her the rat trap, which held 3 rats. "We'll have the biggest and the fattest," said the fairy, and with a tap of her wand she changed the biggest of the 3 rats into the roundest, jolliest coachman you ever saw. "Go now and fetch me 4 lively lizards hiding under that big stone by the well," instructed the fairy, "for they will make excellent footmen." And so they did, for with a touch of her magic wand, the fairy soon changed the 4 lizards into 4 tall, handsome footmen in splendid purple and gold uniforms. You have the coach, the coachman, and the footman. The fairy smiled. So now you can go to the ball, Cinderella. Cinderella shook her head sadly. I cannot go, fairy godmother, she whispered. I cannot go to the ball in these rags. The palace guards would never let me pass. No sooner had she spoken than her poor rags became a gown of the most wondrous beauty, sparkling with jewels. And here is one last gift, said her godmother. Put them on, child. And she handed Cinderella the daintiest, most perfect pair of glass slippers you ever saw. Smiling happily, Cinderella prepared to enter the coach, but her godmother stopped her. There's one thing you must promise me, she said in a warning voice. Promise to leave the ball before the hour of midnight strikes. If you do not, this coach will change back to a pumpkin. The horses will become mice, the coachman will be once more a rat, and these fine footmen will scurry away into the night in their lizard shapes. Worst of all, you will find yourself in rags. I promised, Cinderella cried, as the coachman gathered up the reins. I promise. As soon as Cinderella entered the ballroom, her beauty was so dazzling that she instantly attracted the prince's attention. As soon as he could, he came to her side, begging her to dance with him. And now they danced round and round the great ballroom. They circled until the other guests lost interest in each other and stopped to watch. Who is she? Where did she come from? They asked each other. It's clear the prince is in love with her already. Even the ugly sisters declared that they made a handsome couple, though they never dreamt that the prince's beautiful partner was none other than their own stepsister. In all her life, Cinderella had never known such happiness as she danced, but not for a moment did she forget her fairy godmother's warning. And when the big palace clock chimed 11:45, she slipped out of the prince's arms and fled. Cinderella was no sooner safely home and once again in rags than the sisters were at the door. "It's just as well you waited up for us," they told her sourly. "Now you can help us undress and see that our gowns are put away neatly, for we are invited to another ball at the palace tomorrow night." The ugly sisters were not the only ones to attend the ball the next night. Cinderella was there too, looking more beautiful than ever, and it was clear the prince had fallen in love with her. "Please tell me your name," he asked as they danced. But Cinderella shook her head. "Let us dance and be happy," was all she said. And this is what they did. And Cinderella forgot all about the time until suddenly she heard the clock strike 12. With a gasp of dismay, she tore herself from the prince's arms and ran from the palace. The prince raced after her, but when he reached the palace steps, there was no trace of his lovely princess. All he found was one of her tiny glass slippers. As the prince held the slipper in his hand, he made a solemn vow. "The girl who can wear this glass slipper will be my bride," he promised himself. Early the next morning, the prince sent his herald through the town, so that all the townsfolk might know of his search. Each and every house must be visited, and every girl must be given a chance to try on the glass slipper. He commanded his royal servants. Great was the excitement as one girl after another attempted to push her foot into the glass slipper. The ugly sisters could hardly wait their turn. "I'm sure that slipper will fit my foot," said one. "I take a size smaller than you," said the other. "It's more likely to fit my foot." They were still arguing when the royal servant arrived at their house and was invited inside. Alas for the two sisters, it was soon plain to see that their feet were many sizes too big for such a tiny slipper. "Is there no one else in this house who might try on the slipper?" the royal servant demanded. "Of course not," snapped the ugly sisters together. "Nobody." The servant had caught a glimpse of Cinderella. With a wave of his hand, he beckoned her to him. "Everyone must try the slipper," he said as Cinderella held out her foot. "The prince commands it." Can you guess what happened next? The glass slipper twinkled and sparkled like some jewel on Cinderella's slender foot. There was no doubt that it was a perfect fit. Then, before the two ugly sisters could show their surprise, Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared before them. With a wave of her magic wand, she changed Cinderella's rag dress into a gown of golden silk, which made the ugly sisters gasp in jealous anger. So now, the fairy said to Cinderella, the coach outside will carry you to your prince. So Cinderella found true happiness at last with her prince, and the very next day they were married and lived happily ever afterwards. As for the ugly sisters, Cinderella forgave them completely. She even found two husbands for them, and she let them come and stay at the palace. This made the ugly sisters so ashamed that they grew much nicer and much, much prettier. My paintings are for sale on my website as prints, postcards, bookmarks, greeting cards, and mugs. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoyed the content. I post every Monday, and I'll see you soon.